I'm going to need you to bear with me on this particular topic. This isn't as immediately obvious as other topics are. It's more of a way of rationalizing and a way of coming to terms with coming into contact with entities, particularly what I term Transplutonian entities. And I use it to deconstruct the image or the actual physical, physical-esque, most of the time astral shape of what I'm encountering. A chimera is a term that is used to describe the genetic merger of at least two animals, sometimes multiple animals. And somewhere in our dark, hidden history, when very reptilian-minded, mad, high magic, high science intelligences were warping and twisting and creating, I think there bears enough story and enough reference that mad scientists of the time had probably messed with creating, who knows, what kind of blends of animals and how long they actually lived and what they actually did. But the fear of that is still very fresh in modern humans' minds. And when you look at the blackest of the black projects, they usually deal with some sort of human genetic experimentation. Even that awful movie Human Centipede was based off of Dr. Mengele's idea. That may have actually happened. That was a true Nazi-minded, we're working with the black sun, we're reptilian, we're Transplutonian, we're so insane that even the humans doing this aren't human anymore. So when you're dealing with chimeras, and there is a whole magician tradition that I know, where Native American, my own Germanic roots, a lot of tribal roots will deal with working with the eagle or the bear or the owl, you know, whatever, what have you. This whole tradition is based off working with different types of merged animals, like the unicorn, you know. Do a video on the unicorn, Bearheart. But when you look at a unicorn, the magical working with the unicorn was intuitive understanding of commerce. That's why it's the animal that's associated with Jupiter, because the horse related movement, commerce, trade. The horn was the psychic manifestation of directed force, so you were intuitively understanding the direction of commerce. That is what the unicorn was. There are some ideas of purity that go with it, that only virgins can ride it, so on and so forth, and because there was a transfer of money for transfer of sexuality, it all tied in. But when we're working with chimeras on that particular level, then it becomes symbolic, which is kind of where I'm going to keep this. At least in the way that when you're trying to deconstruct fear, when you're dealing with a Transplutonian being, I'm not sure I'm saying this correctly. A Transplutonian being is an entity that comes from well beyond the scope of what is called our solar system. Our solar system is created of its own consciousness, and certain vibrations are held within the consciousness of our solar system. That's why we have the alignment of planets. That's why we have planetary-based spheres. Pluto, which they're now saying isn't even a planet, which is absolutely Plutonian. Pluto would love to play, I'm not a planet, I'm a planet, I'm here, I'm not. That's very much what Pluto does. A Transplutonian is outside the range of known planetary spheres. So for us as humans and here on Earth, these entities are truly, truly alien. And therefore, when their vibrations come through and intermingle with the astral vibrations that we experience in our dream time and our own out-of-body experiences, even with our own magic, they appear to us even more bizarre than the regular spirits that most true practicing magicians can summon. Now, if you look through an old grimoire, most of the time you're going to see certain themes. A spirit has a dog's head, or a spirit has a wolf's head and a snake's tail. Or it's going to be like one of the spirits that is very common, or at least for me, is a spirit with 3 heads, one of a man, one of a frog, and one of a cat. So these spirits don't necessarily really look like that, but their vibrations are set so they can use what we know, and the vibrations of it create the image of them. Our consciousness views the vibrations that are coming through, and we add the trappings of color, shape, and form. They are just intelligences of a certain vibration. That's why they can be viewed in different ways by different people, but the majority of the time they have a certain specifics or notable markers about them. So when dealing with a Transplutonian entity, you are going to see certain themes that seem to be apparent and shared themes, but the vast, crazy alien influences come with them. You can have them in a myriad, infinite number of possibilities. And one of the true dangers of summoning entities is getting an entity and viewing its shape, its appearance, and it can be so shocking to see, so grotesque, so bizarre, that you can actually lose your sanity in some forms, especially Transplutonian entities, that because humans have a gigantic range of emotional understanding, but when you deal with an alien influence that is truly different, the way that humans perceive them, because they are so multivariate and so bizarre, I think that there are gaps and things that unlock in the human mind that might even unravel it a little bit. Now, I'm not going to get into it right now, but the symbol of Neptune, the trident, was actually, and this is something you won't hear, is actually a key to the subconscious mind, to unlock it. And Poseidon held the creature known as the Kraken. The Kraken is a manifestation of a massive Transplutonian entity. A lot of the Cthulhu ideas are intermingled with what the Kraken was. Now, the Kraken also, believe me, I have no doubt there are massive squids that live in the bottom of the ocean. But that was a name applied to something they already knew as something quite terrible and quite awful through the magic and priests and crazy manifestations of the Illuminati back then. That was a beast that many, many individuals feared. There was a cult of the Kraken. There was a cult of Transplutonian beings, and they did awful, horrible things to humans, much like the Illuminati does now. Transplutonian entities have been in and out of human consciousness forever. In fact, the entire Necronomicon, the entire H.P. Lovecraft mythos is a Transplutonian mythos. The more people work with those Transplutonian beings, the more they come in contact, and they're not lying when they say that they can unlock parts of the human mind that either the humans will literally unravel, or because they are so aware of the potential that's out there in the alien influences that come and contact them, they will retreat in a dark new world, because the truth is much, much, much more horrible than the illusion that they're under. So we as humans are actually somewhat protected because we have a limited perception. If we could perceive all that was happening around us in our tangent universe, we would literally go insane. It wouldn't make sense. That's why humans are very awareness vehicle based. You're in your physical body. Okay? You're aware of the physical world. The physical world is based on a number of rules. When you leave it, or I shouldn't say leave it, when you become aware of your astral vehicle, things can get phantasmagorical, but there's still a number of set forms, set rules, set other things that keep it from just this great expanse and Herculean mind drifts of true madness and insanity that exist in Transplutonian universes and in alien quasi-religious. It gets strange. Let's just put it like that. When dealing with chimeras, I want to talk about dealing with Transplutonian entities, or dealing with spirits in general. Because for those of you who have begun to invoke, for those of you who have begun to have conversations with, the first thing that you do is you really freak out. You're like, but it had 7 eyes and a giant horn sticking out of its face. And yes, some of them are very bizarre looking. But because you are a magician, and if you go in with the awareness that you can force them to take a shape that is much more pleasant to your sanity. Transplutonian beings, however, generally will never, ever, ever listen to you. They are not to be trusted. They are not to be trafficked with. They are not to be. I would 100% advise against summoning them. They don't have the same laws. They aren't bound necessarily by the same understandings that the spirits in our universe, quote unquote, solar system that are part of our planetary spheres have. It's just, it's too strange, too weird. So I'm going to talk about deconstructing the chimera. Okay? A deconstruction of the chimera is, one, keeping your cool when you actually see it. And they can take the shape of massively horrible things. But the more aware you are of what you're seeing and how you're able to deconstruct what you're seeing, the less likely you're going to freak out. If you can take it in small bites instead of swallowing the giant behemoth in front of you, you're going to get out more okay, and you're going to be able to control yourself And in that moment, because the Transplutonian being is just waiting for you to lose yourself, to lose your confidence, to lose your ability, to lose your authority. And then it can really move in, and it can tell you things that will just twist your mind, because they have a way of wording and saying and using images that you have never ever experienced before, because there's no reason you would have ever experienced before until you deal with a truly bizarrely alien entity. It's just the first couple times that I dealt with one, I couldn't sleep for weeks, and it took me months and months before I could actually go through a full night's sleep. I wish I would have known this stuff then. There were things that were taught to me very specifically in a specific order, but back then, you know, I've been doing this for 20 some odd years, so this was like 12 years ago that I got taught this. We weren't in the exact place of dire straits. Nowadays, Transplutonian beings are being heavily trafficked with. The Illuminati really enjoys that Cthulhu mythos of awakening a slumbering entity that will come and bring death and madness in a sunless world. I don't think it takes too much looking around to realize that there is a war against sunlight, there is a war against a healthy environment, there is a war against mental sanity, there is a war against human freedom. They are closing us off from all the things that are our greatest strengths, so they can unleash something truly awful. And once all the minds are unwoven, once you are at your weakest, once you are fully drowned and soaked with despair, your astral body, your mind is fully open to be taken over and to become a host, and then your physical body could very well become a host. This is a one potential that I think that they're actually trying to angle at. So let's talk about deconstructing a chimera. Okay? We're going to use the handy piece of paper. Yay, piece of paper. Alright. Because you know my name is Bearheart and I like to do drawings. So, let's look at a friendly Transplutonian entity that I encountered at some point. Okay? Let's go even the most recent one that I encountered. I'm not the best. Not the best artist in the world, so bear with me. That is not completely uncommon for what a Transplutonian being may look like when you encounter them. There is a number of characteristics that seem to be common through what Transplutonians are. Generally, they have either one large or multiple eyes. I think this has a whole lot the fact that their vibration is all about singling out, is all about watching, is all about stalking. So the eye is very prevalent. Don't freak out when you see it. They also seem to really, really like tentacles. Tentacles, to me, would say that they really love to get involved. They love the intertangling, interweaving. They love to manipulate from afar, because you can send your tentacles way, 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 way out, manipulate and pull them way back in. They like big teeth. They like big mouths. This really says to me that they are all about devouring everything that they can get into, get around, that they are very greedy, that they must feed off dense vibrations, they must feed off your emotions. They also seem to take aquatic-like I'm searching for the word here, distinction. I think this is because they come from very far. Now, here's the interesting thing. Poseidon was a god of the, or is a god of the seas, and I think the sea in that way meant there are even varying levels of the astral world. There is the deep, deep, deep astral world. There's the world that is light and bright and airy. There's the place in between. Like the sea, Poseidon can unlock and take you deep, deep into the blackest of the darkest of the deepest sea, where the strangest, most bizarre fish live. I think this is direct reference that these Transplutonian beings come from areas that humans are just not meant to go. You could not survive where these entities come from. And because the astral sea or the astral world is equated to as the ocean of subconscious, I think because of the aquatic features of Transplutonian beings that they carry a lot, I think this is the human mind's ability to perceive that they come from a deep, dark astral realm. They also sometimes take on very insectoid qualities. They have weird clicking sounds. They move in a strange, creepy, robotic kind of way, like a roach scurrying across the floor or a spider spinning a web. There's a certain level of mechanical influence. It's like insects are almost like biomechanical in a real sense, like they're robots with biological brains, and they're hive-minded. So I think this is the way of saying that Transplutonian entities that really flow through here have a hive mentality, have a survival, fight-flight function that's very, very, very strong, and cannot express or understand emotion past what maybe a high-level insect could understand. It's really more about communication. It's really more about hard facts. It's really more about what is. And I think their clinical coldness in a lot of ways is more directly related because they have these insectoid qualities. Looking at this, if you were to have an astral projection or summon an entity and suddenly be faced with something like this, it would be very important for you to quickly deconstruct what this entity is. Not to take it in as a whole, okay? Because when it comes at you as a whole entity, you will be washed over, flooded over, and floored, and therefore ineffective. You have to deconstruct it. You have to take it apart bit by bit. That way, if I see the tentacle, and then I see the fishy scales, and then I see the giant eye, and then I see the mouth, and then I see the mandibles, I can take it apart like a puzzle. I can understand what I'm seeing. I can take it, strip it down piece by piece, and therefore what I am doing is actually deconstructing its power. I'm deconstructing the strength that it has from the grotesque visual image that I am receiving, that I am seeing with my astral eyes, and in some cases, my physical eyes. It's a strange concept, but if you work with it, if you give it some real thought about how to deconstruct something, you can actually take its power away. So if I understand what the eye does, I negate the power of the eye. If I understand what its tentacles are for, I negate the tentacles. If I understand its fishy, weird aquatic body, then I take that away. If I understand what its teeth and the mouth are there for, I take that away. If I understand what the mandibles are, about the gimme, gimme, gimme type of ideal, I'm always hungry, I'm always going to be devouring, I take the power of those mandibles away. I take away, I took away the tentacle. I take away, its stabby motions of its long, pointy horn, whatever it has. If you're able to deconstruct it, you're able to erase its nature. And now you're just dealt with an alien entity that's just weird, fucked up, and bizarre. But it's not what it used to be. Once you can tear something down, use the power of Mars to deconstruct what you're seeing, you are deconstructing the power it has. In another form and fashion, when I go into judo tournaments, or when I used to cage fight, or all these things, I didn't go in and look at this juiced up, tatted up individual standing across from me. I would look at, are the sinews in his forearms particularly developed? I would look at what his wrists and what his hands look like. Is his grip going to be, a problem? Is he huge upper body with little bitty chicken legs? I would deconstruct the individual that I was looking at and figure out, I know what this guy is going to be able to do 90% of the time. And, 95% of the time, I always emerge victorious because I was able to deconstruct. I looked at the tattoos he had. The tattoos will say a ton about that individual. And generally the tattoos they had are, tattoos that mean great things to them, so I know where his power source is coming from. I know what type of mythologies that he is basing into. And I would, in my own mind and my own spirit, gear up with mythologies that I felt would checkmate his. It's all very same. You can use these same concepts with deconstructing a chimera, with just deconstructing any type of situation that you're in. So, a strange topic, yes, but worth talking about and worth understanding, because as we move into an area where the Illuminati is becoming more and more desperate and more freaked out and more afraid that its agenda is not moving exactly as they wanted to, and that there's a quickening in their agenda to match the quickening of our realizations and our waking up to them. We can deconstruct their most horrible chimeras. We can deconstruct their most horrible plans. We can deconstruct their wars. We can deconstruct their depopulation agendas. Everything that they throw at us, we can deconstruct, take apart, and look at piece by piece. And then it's not so scary anymore. Then the power of it is greatly weakened, and in fact a lot of vulnerabilities start to come out. So let's go back to our Transplutonian friend. These big giant eyes are very sensitive. The more aware you are, the more light you shine, the more you're going to blind this entity to the power of who you are. It's not going to be able to absorb everything. If it's watery and insectoidy, you need to come at it with fire, with pure, fiery Mars-like energy. It's not going to be able to stand in your presence if you're shining like the sun. It And in fact, these things hate the physical sun. So you need to be the metaphysical representation of the sun because you are dealing with it on the astral world. You need to be the astral example of your own inner sun. I mean, right there, boom, right there. If you're not doing the solar breathing thing with the symbol that I was, oh my God, you got to start like right now. Okay? It's tentacles. It doesn't want to come at you directly. It wants to come at you and pick you apart. You need to take it apart. I mean, by deconstructing it and seeing what it's made of, you can find out how to counteract this entity. You can counteract any situation just by learning how to deconstruct. Learning how to deconstruct the Chimera. It's a strange concept, one you're not probably have heard ever talked about, but well worth your time to at least meditate on. I hope that this video made sense, because I feel like every time I talk about it, I'm leaving hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of examples that I want to use out of it. I've got a whole video and series on how to make and build your own astral chimeras, but that's advanced level stuff. Not saying that you're not ready for it, and not saying that at some point a lot of you will be ready for it, but I would really rather get everyone on board with unifying and really coming into their own with planetary energies, mastering planetary powers, becoming very, very astrally powerful, and then we can move on to chimeras. But since we're going to be moving into a time where I have a feeling Transplutonian entities are going to be becoming more and more and more, I want you to begin to deconstruct even reptilian entities. Deconstruct them, because the less power they have, the more taken apart. Let's use it this way. When I clean and press, 160, 170 pound kettlebell, okay? When I take it off the ground and bring it to my shoulder and rack it and then put it over my head, I'm not using my body, okay, I'm going to grab it, now I'm going to use my leg, now I'm going to try to force it up, now I'm going to use my back, no. I am bringing my whole core into that kettlebell. I'm bringing my whole body to breach the kettlebell from the ground. I am using my hips to thrust and lift. I'm pulling with my whole entire back, with my arm, with my grip. I'm racking it. I'm absorbing the shock of that big 160 pounds into my body. I'm sending it everywhere. And then I am tightening and using my entire body to thrust energy upward so that I can get motion behind it and put it over my head and lock out. If I just use little bits of my body here and there, like it's segmented, I couldn't do it. I wouldn't near have the power that I have when I'm unifying my entire body. So if you can unify your entire body, your entire astral world, your entire astral self, and deconstruct the entity that you are facing, the entity that you see, you segment their abilities. You isolate their strengths, and then you can attack them with a united front. The whole "we are Sparta," that's what the Spartans did. They assessed, they phalanxed, and they destroyed. They put their spear point, their full triangle march approach, and they spearheaded the enemy's weakest points. They saw the flaws in the enemy's formation, and they absolutely blitzkrieged the weakest point of their enemy's formation. They didn't match them strength for strength. They took the colossal might of that Mars Aryan type energy and they just pounded it, just knocked it home at their enemy's weakest link. They isolated and segmented their enemy. They divided their enemy's power. This is the same thing. You are deconstructing. You are segmenting the Chimera. You are not dealing with a lion and goat dragon-headed monster with a venomous snake tail, because then that's scary. If you're dealing with the whole Chimera, if you're dealing with the whole Transplutonian entity, you're going to get fucked up. But if you understand that you can take care of the tail, take care of each of the heads, and understand what each part is there for, you can remove the snake head, you can remove the lion head, and you can attack each thing or find its weakness and just plow through it. It's more, when you're dealing with an astral entity, the more you understand of what it looks like, the more you understand of what it represents, the more power you have over it. And then it just falls apart. And I've seen this happen. It's very strange, but it works. It very much works. And your fear level is minimal. Its greatest strength comes from your fears. The less fear you have of it, the more power you have over it. Meditate on that. Think about it. If you have any questions, shoot me an email. I'm so backed up with emails right now, I don't know if I'm going to necessarily be able to get back to everyone, but I'm going to try. But use this to the best of your ability. If you don't understand it, just keep working with it, keep working with it, keep working with it. Eventually you will. The more, just introducing it to your minds right now will really, 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 really help. And I'm pretty sure everyone who watches these videos on a regular basis is wickedly smart, and you guys will definitely put this to good use.